Like an attempt to distance herself from President Obama. Democratic challenger Allison Lundgren Grimes has long campaigned on her support for that state's coal industry and has claimed time and time again to be the pro-coal candidate in that race. However, conservative filmmaker James O'Keefe caught some of her staff on hidden camera admitting something, well, quite different. Take a look at this.
I see the ads where Allison's up there talking about how she supports the coal industry, and then I just start thinking to myself,
she has to say that, because in Kentucky, if you don't support the coal industry, you're dead,
right,
politically. And I know that that's true, and I know that's why she has to say that. But you know, when politics is a game, you do what you have to do to get to point B. And then you do, I mean, it's a lying game, unfortunately.
So she's saying something positive about coal because she wants to be elected.
Right.
And in the state of Kentucky, if you are anti-coal, you will not get elected, period. End of conversation.
Joining me in studio with reaction to this and much more, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Great to see you in New York. How are you? Good to see you, Senator. I looked at that tape, and I'm thinking if I'm a person in Kentucky, that's a game changer if I was considering Allison Lundgren Grimes for Senate.
Well, you know, we've lost several thousand jobs in the mining industry. It's a big industry in Kentucky. And when the Democrats say, oh, we'll support coal, and yet we ask them, well, you're going to vote for Harry Reid if you get up there. They say, well, yeah, I got to vote for Harry Reid. But if that happens, we'll never get any relief. And this kind of, I think, blows the truth away here and lets you know that, you know what, it looks like even though they say one thing in public, in private, maybe they aren't so supportive.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, they're basically all admitting that she's just lying and saying, well, you can't say you're against coal in Kentucky.
Well, think about where our money comes from. You know, they talked about $100 million in this race. It's coming from Hollywood. It's coming from people who would shut down the coal industry. And really, this is a big deal in Kentucky. It's our economy has really suffered. We have some counties with 20% unemployment. Mining jobs are actually pretty good paying jobs. You can make $75,000, $85,000 a year sometimes just out of high school.
She keeps saying in this race, I'm not Barack Obama, but she'd vote with Harry Reid. How big a problem?
It's a huge problem because, you know, when the president ran for office, he said he would bankrupt coal. He explicitly said, if elected, I'll bankrupt coal. And most people in Kentucky feel like he is trying to bankrupt us and that he doesn't really care about our jobs. And it's hard for her to disassociate. She would almost have to say that I'm no longer supporting him and I won't vote for Harry Reid is about the only way she'd have a chance. But I think if people...
Mark Pryor said that. Were you surprised to hear Mark Pryor make that?
Well, I wonder how genuine that is because most of their voting records are well over 90% with the president.
I noticed that a lot of big names in the Senate, Ted Cruz and others, are going into Kansas to help Pat Roberts. Have you been asked? Would you go if asked?
Yeah, and I'll be there towards the end of the month, and I was in North Carolina last week, so I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we have a Republican majority.
If you had to guess now, I mean, I find this a volatile year, difficult to read. What do you think we're going to end up with?
I kind of agree with the chart Bill was showing. There's at least 3 states that we're going to pick up, West Virginia, South Dakota, and Montana. There's 5 or 6 that hang in the balance beyond that. But the wind's at our back, and I think the president's very unpopular. Not only has he been somewhat of a feckless leader as a foreign policy leader for the nation, he's also been somebody who's just sort of run roughshod over the Constitution.
Well, I think that's the biggest deal, and you say that all the time, and I was really glad to see Reince Priebus, the first item was to hold the Constitution, which the president, I think, has been bypassing. But I'm looking at Alaska, I would say Arkansas, Louisiana, and I do believe Iowa. I think Joni Ernst is going to pull that out in Iowa.
Very good chance in all of those, but it'll be close. This will be one of those elections where you get to count the votes and stay up late.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. Thanks, Rand Paul. And coming up, it's